Hello, my name is Arun Jain, and this is the 15th video in a series called Alumni Insights. In this video, I will be interviewing an alum from Harvard University, the second-ranked university in the United States right now. And I thought this one was really cool, and I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did. Let's begin. Hello, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm also good. First off, what was your major and graduation year from Harvard?
I studied government with a secondary in statistics, and I graduated in 2017.
All right. Next, would you like to share a fun experience you had in college?
There's a good amount to draw upon, obviously, for, I think most people will say college has been some of their most fun years. I think one of the most memorable, quote-unquote fun memories for me is studying abroad in the summer after my freshman year in Istanbul, Turkey. I know that's a multitude of experiences in one answer, but it's one of the first times I spent time abroad. And both the combination of being in a new country, a country as beautiful as Turkey, and a city as beautiful as Istanbul, somewhere as historical as Istanbul was awesome. Getting to try new foods, really experiencing the culture and spending 3 months there was a really nice way for me to meet people who are from Turkey, are from Istanbul, and explore the country. So that was one of my most fun experiences from college.
Yeah, that sounds really great. Would you say a lot of people have similar experiences like that, traveling abroad for studies?
I can't give you a percentage.
Yeah.
But I would say so. Yeah, the study abroad program at Harvard. A lot of people I've noticed do it in their summers rather than during the semesters. Although I do have friends who have studied abroad during the school year itself. So I was able to go abroad via the summer study abroad program, and there's a ton of them in different countries around the world. And I graduated in 2017, so this was 2014. So I don't know what countries and what programs are available now, but I'd wager that there's a ton.
Yeah. All right. Moving on, more jargony questions. In what ways did the university's culture and values contribute to your overall learning experience? Can you share a specific example that shows this influence?
Yes, I would say that the school really values obviously critical thinking is one way to put it, but I think what school really values is that kind of really healthy discussion, very research based, very communication based, just making sure that you're coming from an informed position, but also seeking to learn and expand how you think about the world, right? And I think that has really been instilled in me because, all the classes are, a lot of my favorite classes were smaller seminar style classes with 10, 15 people. And those are really where the fun discussions happen, right? Discussions around, a certain topic for the class, or maybe an adjacent, news event that happened that's relevant to the class, or historical events. And I think that has really shaped how I think and engage with the world, even to this day. Obviously, I think a healthy, ethos of debate and a healthy ethos of that sort of open-mindedness is really important, I think. And, that is something I carry with me, to this day.
Nice. So a lot of discussion-based learning and lots of different viewpoints that you're introduced to.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's interesting is that so many, a beautiful thing about Harvard and many other colleges is that there's such a wide variety of lived experiences, right? People have come from different backgrounds, both culturally and socioeconomically, regionally, geographically. So there's so many different factors that informed how people think about the world, their perspective on certain issues, and that evolves over time, obviously, as you kind of have osmosis with your peers in college. So I think the beauty of that diversity of multiple of different experiences and perspectives is something that I really valued about the school.
Yeah, it all really comes out in a person over there. I like that. Alumni networks, moving on. Alumni networks can be valuable for career development. How has your connection with fellow graduates and the alumni community influenced your professional journey post-graduation?
Yeah. So I think something I found is that a lot of times the alumni network is, willing to be very helpful in your kind of like career development and your job search. I mean, depending on how you ask, obviously. And to be, I know a lot of friends who had leveraged alumni connections in order to kind of like learn more about a company and then get interviews by that via that pathway, because a lot of jobs are a lot of interviews are done through employee referrals, right? Like, oh, I know this person, or I know of this person, and that's like a kind of a less quote unquote risky way for companies to have interviews or give interviews. And that's just that's what I found to be the case in many industries. But that being said, I actually haven't left. Like, I used the alumni network slightly differently in my career so far, where it's actually been mostly around like seeking advice and mentorship around career things that I think has been really interesting, because the alumni network is really vast. So I can find someone in a certain industry, reach out to them, and try to learn more about how what their experience has been in a certain industry that I might be trying to pivot into, or a certain vertical or role that I'm trying to pivot into, or learn more about. So that's kind of been like a really big primary way I've been using the alumni network. But obviously, like having an alumni network can expand and support your job search, because they can vouch for you and or provide you that sort of information, that coaching, etc.
Yeah, sounds like you're gonna. Sounds like you get a lot of help from them. Um, Next, given the rapidly changing job market, how well did your alma mater prepare you for the challenges and opportunities in your field? Are there specific skills or experiences you find particularly valuable?
Yeah, I think that like a lot of times, college is something that I think college was really great for in preparing me for the workplace, is more on the soft skills of aspect of it, and obviously that's gained through experience. I think by soft skills I mean like, how do you manage laterally, how do you manage up, how do you communicate effectively. I think those things are like obviously learned on the job and like trained on the job, but I think that like a lot of the and you don't want to be really academic in your communications and like when you're working, right? Like you don't want to write essays. Nobody's trying to read a 700-word email, right? But what I think college really helped me with is that how do I communicate my ideas most effectively in a way that is if I disagree with someone, I don't want to come off as combative, but I want to come off as like, let's have a discussion. How do I distill my main points down to the main, quote unquote, the main bullet points, or what have you, right? So I think that what's been really helpful for me is that like skills around communication, around debate. Well, and not, I don't want to debate my coworkers all the time, but like around communication, around healthy discussion has been really helpful. And then I mentioned I did a secondary in statistics. I don't think that you need to necessarily have it really depends on the role you're trying to get into, right? And I don't think you necessarily need to have like take quantitative secondaries, majors, or minors, right? Like statistics, but I do use statistics in my day-to-day, not like theoretical statistics like I learned in advanced statistics, but like basic things around like a t-test or a z-test or binomial test, because I do run experiments in my current job, and I do look at data and do data analytics a lot in my current job. So those are skill sets that that carry over from from college onward, but obviously that is dependent on the role, dependent on the person. Yeah.
So, going back to the communication skill set, was that something that you learned in a class or just like around the campus, just as like you went on through the years?
Kind of both, right? I think that like you have, I mentioned like seminar style classes, more discussion based classes. Those are really areas where you can really hone in some of those skills, right? Like because it's not just like how do you communicate it, right? But it's I guess like communication skills is a little bit maybe underplaying what I'm trying to get at here, which is taking, a wide variety of source material, right? Let's say in the classroom setting, it's, the papers or the books that you have to read for the class, right? How do you take all of those different inputs and distill it into understandable, engageable outputs for your discussion mates to understand where you're coming from, the point that you're trying to get across, and ultimately engage with you on that topic, right? So it's like that distillation of those different inputs into the points that you're trying to make, both as supporting evidence and or kind of informing the nuance of your opinion. And then like how do you then engage after you do that, right? Like people are gonna respond to what you said. So how do you take that and incorporate that into your next response, and or like, right? And this applies to essay writing as well, etc. And as you might imagine, like once you get to the working life, there's going to be a ton of that. Obviously it's going to be less academic where you're reading books and papers, right? And it's going to be far more like I'm taking in inputs from this project and that project and trying to understand what to do next. And, here's my opinion on this project, etc. Like, I think that's what I meant by communication skills, right? Like you learn that in the classrooms, but also engaging with your peers. People, I think what was really, really awesome was that people are very engaged with various topics around the world that impact us globally, locally, regionally. And I think that the beauty of having such an engaged student populace allows you to have really enriching discussions outside of a classroom setting. So, I think those are also things that you learn, like just kind of having, by socializing and speaking with your peers. And this is not to say like every student is like, debating world topics all the time. Where college students are college students, right? We love having fun and not, taking ourselves too seriously. But it is really nice to have that option of knowing that people will engage with you earnestly on topics you care about.
Yeah, I think that's great. I actually asked the follow-up question because I think that's just an invaluable skill to have, and I agree it can't just be labeled by communication skills. It is something more. Lastly, looking back, is there anything you wish you had known or done differently during your time at Harvard to better prepare for your post-graduation endeavors?
Yeah. I think this is a three-part answer. One is, this is less post-grad effort, but if I'm looking back at my time at Harvard, I wish I took more advantage of the really cool events that are happening on campus. Like there are, world leaders, for lack of a better word, like celebrities, not just like folks like a Beyonce, but also like a very famous diplomat or a very famous academic or a filmmaker. There are a lot of different events that are happening across campus, and I feel like I didn't take a lot of advantage of those as much as I wish I had. And that's kind of a big regret of mine that, it just doesn't impact my post-grad life, besides me being able to say, oh, I saw Steven Spielberg talk. But secondarily, I think that there were a ton of classes that, weren't really relevant to my major or minor, that I wish I took because, they're hobbies or interests I've developed after college or, had some interest in during college but didn't really pursue. So, for example, I'm very into, like, cooking, but also the science of it all. And there's a class that's literally called The Science of Cooking. And I wish I took that class because it would have provided me a good foundation to pursue that hobby of mine. And then I guess the third thing, actually, I'll just leave it at those two things. I think those are the kind of two main things, with, things that would have done differently. I can always legislate the what if questions, but I don't know if that's a productive use of my time.
So just capitalize on everything the college has to offer. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and there's like a once in a lifetime chance, like literally, you're not going to college ever, right? To take advantage of those and learn and engage with these topics. I keep saying engage with these topics, but like truly, it's like a really good place to learn and socialize, and take advantage of that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was a wonderful interview.
Yeah, hopefully that was helpful, and looking forward to seeing you live.
Yep. All right. Well, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.